Welcome back, everyone, to the FSL Wild Rift Open 3 for its second series today, Grandin. And it's going to be exciting because it is between Space Gamer Everest versus Talon East. It's going to be fun and exciting. We saw series number 1 a while ago in patch 3.3, and we could expect something similar here for series 2.
Yeah, exactly, right? So Talon Esports coming into this one, they recently picked up a team, I believe it's with all the Thai female players, and it's really interesting because a couple of them were also competing in the SEA Games, where I think they took the bronze medal, and so we have a lot of experience there. So I'm very curious how this kind of stacks up against some competition here in the Wild Rift Open. So with, especially I think their mid lane, we're going to see some pretty exciting things. Elizan, a popular streamer there in the Thailand region, and then of course she's also sometimes on the WCS Thai broadcast, which is always fun. I think they're also receiving some support from their coach Raven, who's also been a player, who's also competed in the SEA Games, and so there's so much going on here. A lot of high expectations with Talent Esports. I want to see what they have in store for us here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think experience when it comes to a competitive scenario is really, really important, and it gives you a lot more, knowledge, capacity to compete, especially in a high level tournament. So we'll see how this will turn out for Talon Esports. As you stated, we've seen also Alizent cast in the Icons Global for a local broadcast, I believe. So we'll see how this will turn out for them. Any expectations when it comes to champions, though?
I'm not gonna get too crazy into that. I feel like we'll just see what they have in store for us when we do get to that point. Instead, I'm gonna focus on a little bit more about like the idea. Like I'm just here to talk a little bit about Wild Rift and where like the future kind of brings us, because we saw like some pretty big moves here. We had the whole like music video thing for like the finals, and they were talking. They had like the whole like dance breakdown and stuff like that. It wasn't a live performance, but I think like what they were able to get done with the music video and stuff was still really interesting for me. I don't know how you felt about it.
You know what I was really, really happy about? When I looked at the AR during the draft phase.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal. It's really, really amazing.
So here's the thing with that. Not only did they manage to make it AR, they also managed to make the AR adjustable based on the lighting within the stadium, right? And so I'm not sure if you ever managed to catch that. I mean, there's some days it was kind of glitched out, right? And so like sometimes Galio's wings would be like totally black and stuff. But for the most part, you would notice if that the lighting would move around and it would capture on the character model as well. And so the characters, you would see that the lighting shift around the different parts of the body, which is really interesting, but also incredibly difficult. And so like the technical ability to get that done is amazing. So we're looking forward to what else like is in store for us. And I feel like this is also partly only possible because this is like brand new base character models built from the ground up for Wild Rift specifically, and then they transfer that on stage.
Yeah, and something interesting, because I was like watching stream, and I believe Kadrill, right? A caster for League of Legends, and I saw his stream once.
Of course.
And he reacted to the AR of the Icons Global, and he said, "Can we get that for League of Legends? Can we get that here for the tournament for LEC?" And it was like, that the AR for Wild Rift is really, really amazing. It's just good stuff coming for Wild Rift. I mean, the lighting was phenomenal as well.
Like yeah, exactly. And talking about AR and drafts, I think we're going into drafts right now. Between our second BO3 of the day. We have one more after this one, but for now, we'll focus on this first, right? So Talon immediately start this one off with some pretty interesting choices, right? A lot of pickup potential and easy to execute kind of champions. I think Space Gamer Everest making the smart decision here by batting away a lot of these enchanters and forcing Talon to have to kind of decide what they want to try and go for between that strong first pick.
Yeah, and we're seeing something more of a similar bans from a while ago, like Singe, Senna, Karma, Yumi, but now we have a ban onto Arya as well. I think they removed it because it's really, really strong. We saw the potential of this champion a while back. Evolution for the first pick for Talon Esports, we have Space Gamer Everest answering with a Jace and Wukong pick.
Strong pickups here for Space Gamer Everest, right? The Jace and the Wukong. Jace, of course, very strong in lane. The Wukong, a very strong responder in the jungle, being able to initiate and follow up with the rest of the team depending on the kind of needs of the composition at that point, but still very flexible right now and could still go towards the Baron side, and so not entirely tunneled into a specific role. Whereas on Talon Esports side, the response here is going to be on the Xin Zhao. I really like this. It's a really good adaptation to the Wukong, partly because you're able to keep up with the Wukong's ability to engage, but also because by having that Crescent Strike, you're able to keep the Wukong at an arm's length. If the Wukong does try and dash in, you can knock them back. Of course, that setup means it's much more difficult for EV to get in the first place. So I think Everest will have to find a secondary means of engage that isn't just going to be the Wukong. Otherwise, I think Talon have already found a great way of shutting it down.
Yeah, I mean, that's a Renekton coming through. A single targeted CC that you're looking for another engage. And yes, it's not the biggest engage, but it's something. It's something for Space Gamer Everest. Now we're seeing the second phase of the bans. Rakan and Ziggs banned away.
Surprisingly, they banned away the Rakan because it felt like Everest could have used that to great effect, especially since they had Nick's pick as well. So it felt like they could have forced Talon to have to ban that one away. The fact that they're trying to hover the Braum right now, I'm curious what this is going to be for Everest, because if they do end up going for the Braum, some good disengage, but not enough supplementary re-engage. And I think what they're missing right now is a Dragon Laner, so they won't find that there in all likeliness as well. Yeah, I feel like they will, like the single engage here is just a little bit lacking for Everest. I would really like for them to go for an engage type support here, but looks like that's not going to be the case if the Braum does come through.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm curious about the bans, because they banned away Orianna, and I feel like Ziggs was a good ban, because you already have a Jace into Space Gamer Everest, but Orianna, it's actually quite interesting. But regardless, we're now going in for a quirky pick here for Space Gamer Everest and Talon Esports. Teemo?
I don't. Nah. This is not happening. This is not happening. Pretty sure it's just gonna be the Lux Seraphine bot side. I understand what they're trying to go for now. And so when you have the Ziggs and Orianna both removed, a lot of the really strong wave clear champions towards the bot side mean that a bunch of the strong mages left up, like the Lux, like the Seraphine, outrange you significantly and are able to get so much done. But moving away from that slightly here, perhaps with the. Ooh. If it was going to be the Lulu, it would have been interesting. I don't feel like they could have tried to get that hyper carry with the Lucian, but instead they go for some engage of their own. And so we talked about needing some engage. They denied it away from Everest.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually kind of like this, because I tried Leona yesterday, because I saw the new patch, right? And the Zenith Blade has an increased range of 0.5, I believe, from 8 to 8.5. So it's going to be interesting how this would turn out for them. It has more range. It has more potential. So we'll see how this would turn out for them. And I think the Braum would have a decent role here as well, because you have 3 melee champions coming from Talon Esports.
Yeah, you have just incredible power in the early phases of the game, just off the fact that you have the Braum passive, and it's going to make it so easy for you to find and win a lot of these early fights and exchanges. That being said, though, a lot of the spells and a lot of the champions that Talon Esports have either A, high mobility, high tankiness, or B, have just enough crowd control that can keep you at an arm's reach and away from their backline, away from the Lux, away from the Lucian. So going to be difficult for Space Gamers to get in and really tackle the issue here with the damage dealers between Lucian and Lux. Oh, Lulu? That was the Lulu pick. But then Space Gamers, of course, also have some really good team fighting. And the thing that they need to do now, I think, is have some pretty creative flanks. If they can get that done, of course, still a very close game. I think both sides have some good odds here.
Absolutely. I mean, both teams have really amazing draft that they did. I think they have their own strategies coming through for the first game coming through, and it's going to be an exciting moment to see how this would turn out. A while ago we've talked about, the experiences coming in from Talon Esports, so we'll see if this would turn out for them to come up on top up against Everest.
I don't feel like I sold you. I don't think you sound convinced enough that this is a really good draft.
I'm convinced. It's just the execution. I wasn't particularly convincing enough. But I'm convinced, granted. Believe me.
The execution wasn't convincing? What do you mean by that?
Minions have spawned.
I don't know.
Iffy! So you're not convinced and you lied to me that you were convinced?
No. Don't get me wrong.
Devastated. Ruined. Second series of the day, by the way. After not casting together for such a long time, I come in and then Impy tells me he doesn't trust my color casting. Wow.
No. I trust you. I do. But right now, we're here in game number 1. Talon Esports versus SG Everest. Renekton Garen matchup on top lane. And similarly from what we've seen in the prior series, both junglers are starting from red buff.
Good save. Uh, Generally, I think they both sides want to avoid trying to clash with each other, especially when you don't have the upper hand towards the scuttle fights. You want to see which side of your map will have pressure. I was quite critical of the Braum pickup here for Everest. That being said, though, it does do quite well for them in lane, right? Because of how tanky they are, because of how well they're easily able to proc the stuns here from Bewitch. It is quite easy to play for in lane. The problem is once they get out of that point, what is nice is that they have slightly longer laning phases now, of course, so they get longer to try and really maximize that impact. At the same time, though, would very much like to see Talon Esports put pressure towards this bot side because they are relatively immobile with the Braum.
And there's the bot side fight that you're talking about. The pressure is on. It's first blood coming from Talon Esports, killing Bill
Well done.
Lynch.
Talon Esports with that first pickup means they also get more pressure onto Polykaton, getting to take her down quite low and forcing her off the wave, send her back on the turret. But at the same time, now we start to see here what happens. Talon Esports lose control of the Scuttlecraft, so they just have to switch sides. Not too much loss, just a little bit of extra time needed to get to that point. But also looking for a rotate mid lane. This is quite interesting.
Yeah, JJ really just wants to have the quick response if ever SG Everest wants to commit into that fight. And also, Tomato have seen JJ and JJ have seen Wukong, so it's pretty much having that info trade. But now Braum with the flash in with the ignite, tick, 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 it's Elizant down.
How unfortunate. I'm pretty sure that was a few ticks away. Maybe could have survived. She still had the barrier, but staying on the turret a little bit too long. This is what happens. This is why I was concerned about JJ moving into the mid lane. Not sure how much can get done, then you're leaving Elizant to her own devices. There is that risk there. But of course, Bewitch committing both summoner spells to that pickup in the bot side. Could be much worse, you know, frankly. It's some extra gold over to the Braum. They'll take that over giving gold over to Polykaton.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a difference between taking kill and taking nothing, right? So it's better than nothing, definitely.
It is better than nothing. I think on both sides they can be quite alright with this the situation. I think Everest were happy to get a kill, and I think Talon were happy that it went over to Bewitch. That being said, first dragon to come up will be an Inferno. I think there is some value to be had here for Talon Esports, but based on the way the composition is drafted, it's very difficult to go for these neutral objectives. Where they do have a lot of power is when they start sieging up, when they need to prevent sieges, or when they need to find a pickoff before the objective starts up. But when it is up, it is very difficult for them to get a good fight in, right? They have a lot of good follow-up and good pickoff, but they don't have that consistent DPS. The Lucian really is not that for the early phases of the game. And so I think Everest hold that advantage and probably can pick up a really good start, maybe with double objectives.
Yeah, especially with Jace and Corki for Everest in the first objective of the matchup, because Jace is really strong when it comes to the early game with a lot of pokes, with a lot of skills, and with a lot of CCs as well with the knockback. And Corki package expectedly on the Infernal Drake or the Rift Herald. So it's a difficult time for Talon Esports, so I do agree with what you're saying, how Lucian will have that difficult time on the first team fight if ever they do contest the objective.
Going to take some time here to just trade between both sides. We will expect to see this matchup a little bit more Garen favored later on, so I think it's important for Apollo to pick up as much of a lead as she can before we get to that point. Where I think Apollo does have a lot of power is in the flank position. You know, if you're able to get into a backline spot against Andy, against Elizabeth, it's very easy to get the stun and the pickup, and then potentially the kill fully as well. Gonna go back now, pick up the package, get ready for the first objectives to spawn up. And also positioning around the mid lane, important to wrestle for control here.
Yeah, the Everest already has seen JJ and Sweet Jane hovering on bot side of this map. Unexpectedly, I think Talon Esports wants to contest the Infernal Drake because Garen went for the Black Cleaver instead of the Hullbreaker. So that could be an option for them.
You're gonna try and start off the dragon, like we mentioned earlier. This is a really strong spot for Everest, and so they could potentially try and wrestle control for both, and maybe come away with a really strong start to get the game going for them. Also taking a good amount of poke, but trading back against Polykaton.
Tomato is there. If ever they want to go for it. Sweet Jane as well, hovering And both of these teams are just waiting for each other to start the Infernal Drake to go for the contest
Really?
instead.
You really have to hold your breath in these situations, right? Both sides have a lot of quick bursts.
Team champion slain.
Oh, wait. They got the kill onto Polykaton. So that means Talon Esports has the advantage to match up against SG Everest. It's a 4v5.
Great start there by Allison. Finding that pickup. Not only was it a pickup, but it was also a 3 versus 5. Now fight happens by the jungle.
Solar Flare, countered by Bewitch, going for the Glacial Fissure as well. Just another down. Tomato is dead. It's Elzen getting all the kills. And now it's Lucian taking another. It's Apollo just getting the end of the culling. And it's Talon Esports. We doubted them, but they're acting up.
First turret destroyed.
When did we doubt them, Infi? When did we doubt them?
I mean, a while ago. We're saying they cannot
What?
match up in the early game, but we're mistaken.
No, Infi. No, they play towards their win condition. They do not do the objective quickly, but they dance around the objective very well with the kind of composition that he had. Additionally, because Blue Bonnet, they get that first start top side, not as bad of a loss for Everest, but also because she was towards the top side, was playing for that 3 versus 5, which is why we saw Everest unable to fight there at all. They were very quickly trying to run under turret, and then falling back against the engage and die for Talon Esports. We didn't doubt them, Infi. You can't, no, you don't have to say that. We didn't doubt them. We're saying that's not how they need to play their composition out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
That's what you meant, exactly. That's
Yeah.
what we meant, guys.
Yeah, but right now in bottom lane though, it's Jason Brom trying to go aggressive onto Andy. Flash is already going to be casted by Lucian, but Brom with the Glacial Fissure not going to be enough to punish him. And Leona is there to support.
Yeah, we're gonna look for a little bit more damage onto Nico, but it's gonna be difficult to take down the Garen. And it's like we mentioned earlier, the Garen's gonna get slowly more tankier, a little stronger, gonna be difficult to deal with.
Crescent Guard was able to take the blue buff. Don't need a smite.
Love to see it.
You need the ulti.
We start to see here a little bit more pressure here from Talon Esports. I think we'd like to see the vision line kind of extend a little bit further. But gonna be difficult to get there, especially since there isn't that much to be had right now. I think they're gonna take that time with that quite defensive line of vision, especially towards the mid side where Elzen is gonna be most vulnerable. I think Everest can look for something with the Rift Herald, maybe try and find a play there, especially since the Hullbreaker is up for Blue Bonnet in a side lane. Maybe just try and pop that and then maybe go for something. But a big dive coming through with Talon.
Yeah, SG Everest is going for the defense here as Talon Esports with the flank coming in from Elizant as well. They're diving through. They get the turret. SG Everest just has to go back away, and as you said it a while ago, Rift Herald now being utilized into the mid lane instead.
Yeah, pulling attention towards the bot side, so the Rift Tower gets to go down in the mid lane instead. I don't think they're gonna be able to stop this. Yeah, gonna focus on the kill on the Tomato instead of protecting the turret.
Too much damage, and now Tomato just has to use up the Cyclone to buy some time, but Nico with the ultimate, justice has been served.
Job well done there. A response back by Nico to take down Tomato. Unfortunately for them, they do lose that mid-side tower, which means, again, going to be more vulnerable. They have some champions with relatively low mobility, but with enough vision control, that can be quite well mitigated. So, Everest there, get a trade, Talon trade back, blow for blow. You start to see now both sides actually in a really even position, but I think Talon just come ahead barely. They do have some really strong mages in the bot side, that's going to give them a lot of damage as they get later into the game.
Yeah. I mean, right now, it's Andy already having Stormrazor and Solari Charge Blade, so that is going to hurt. And SG Everest has to take note of Andy on how he wants to play this, because later on, as we go throughout the game, he's going to be hurting so much more than what we're seeing right now. As you stated though, Talon Esports still has the advantage at 3k gold lead 10 minutes into the matchup, and SG Everest is just falling behind a bit.
Gonna take a little bit of time with this one. The Rift Tower is coming up as well as the Dragon, and so I think Everest want to get some control here, but I think Talon in there first. Do have something I want to talk about, but I think I have to wait for it until after these next changes.
The Zenith Blade is there, roots down on Tomato, uses up the Cyclone to buy some time. just knock up the opposing team, but not going for an all-in as Talon sees Braum there. It's a member disadvantage for them. They just
Wow.
go for the
Red
reset
team
instead.
champion slain.
A solo kill in the bot side. Nico doing an amazing job here. Hullbreaker making the difference, and you start to see, like we mentioned, the Garen gets much stronger as you hit this mid to late phases of the game. The Renekton getting outscaled ever so slightly. And this is gonna give space over to Talon Esports as Nico gets the recall, come back, rejoin the team by the Rift Herald.
Yeah. Talon Esports is starting this, but SG Everest has to be wary because they are lacking one member, and it's Apollo as well. And I think we highlighted Nico before. It's a cleaver first item for them, so much more stronger when it comes to the damage capacity. But now SG Everest set it up the Death Rush. Not enough damage though, because that's Garen and JJ in front. Rift Herald spawn in the mid lane. Just a diversion for Everest to be confused and split up.
Red team
I don't think that was any damage in Fee. I think we just saw the Garen walk in along with JJ. I don't think either of them took more than 300 damage there.
Yeah. Zenith Blade just too far, it's too long. But now Glacial Pressure coming in from Braum.
Huge
That's a
solo flare.
huge knock up. And now Everest is going in front to back. Nico in the front, not receiving a lot of this damage. Stuns in, but look at him. He's so sustaining. But in the end, you cannot tank a 4-man from Everest. It's a triple for SG.
A little bit too excited there, and a job well done by Everest to punish Talon Esports' over-aggression, diving them towards turret. JJ saw an opportunity there. She hits a massive ultimate, but even then the solo flare will not be enough. Pressing guard knocking them back, and the culling to back off. Everest gets some respite, managed to pick up the dragon for themselves, and a couple of kills there as well. So pretty good response there by Everest, showing that it's still in it to win it. And while we have a little bit of time, you know, I do want to talk a little bit about this because I think it is quite funny. So we have Apollo on the top side with the Kraken Slayer. I know, I told you that I don't think we should focus so much on these individual items and builds. But it is very funny because we were talking about this in the Icons Finals, I believe. And Stuart was saying, yeah, no, I don't think that Kraken Slayer makes that much of a difference. You know, it gives you a little bit more lane power, but it doesn't make it so much better. And, you know, we went into this whole discussion. Does it matter? Does it really matter if you go Conqueror or Kraken Slayer trying to win out these matchups? I think we've come to the conclusion that with Wild Rift, things are so much more dynamic as a team game. It's so much more team oriented. I think they really captured that essence in the MOBA genre. Individual itemization like that might make a difference, a small difference in the end, but it's the overall gameplay that really matters and really is what we're looking out for. Movements like this, where Andy spots out the overextension by Apollo, so he moves towards the top side, gets support from Ellison with the laser as well. Ignite onto Apollo, looking to take down the Renekton, but gets back under turret safely and walks away, actually.
Dominus a clutch. It's a clutch from the Dominus. He used it up immediately, and especially with the 3-man roam coming from Talon Esports, it has to be done with a flash. Actually quite impressive of her to be able to survive that.
Yeah, definitely. Right, we saw a really well concentrated effort from Talon Esports. And even then, still gets out. Just has to burn the ultimate, has to burn the flash, and we honestly pretty alright considering both the exhaust and ignite were used to try and pick up the kill there.
Yeah, and also Ellison's ulti, but it doesn't really matter because Lux's ulti is just
it has
so
no
fast
cooldown. That thing, it has no cooldown. It's basically another spell.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the Luden's Echo as well, giving you a little bit of ability haste, but everyone's just hovering top lane. SG Everest doesn't want to give up their tier 1 turret, and Talon Esports wants to take it from them. But right now,
he's on the Andy though.
SG Everest, Apollo is coming through. That's a stun onto JJ with a knock-up. Glacial Fissure with a Cyclone. It's CC Chain. It's flawless. Everest taking the support down.
So that is one of the issues with Talon Esports' composition. When you don't have Elza nearby, you are lacking some disengage. So you have to be a little bit wary about that. Not a big loss, and it's not much that Everest are going to be able to get done, even with that kill. But we do start to see where some of those issues might start to come through. I think Everest are aware of this as well, and so maybe can look to try and punish this.
Yeah, absolutely could. Baron Nashor is still there, not being touched by any of these teams. And when it comes to gold, in 15 minutes, it's pretty much even level playing field for both teams.
Yeah, such a close game between both sides. I do think that there is going to be a little bit of an advantage here for Talon with the power of Nico in the side lane for now. Blue Bomb is going to have a difficult time trying to take her down. And so if Talon are able to put some pressure with Nico in the side lane and really try to hammer away at that inner tier turret, Everest are going to be on a timer. Talon Esports can look to try and get stuff done elsewhere. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit to be had, right? Outer tier turret in the top side, for example, that's something they can realistically try and go for quite early on.
Yeah.
Or quite soon, rather.
Because that's what they tried to do a while ago. It's just that SG Everest was just hovering on top side as well. But right now, it's once again Apollo in danger. It's a 3-man roam from Talon Esports. He has, or she has, his Dominus. The Proto Belt is there, the Flash is there, but is that going to be enough? The CC chains, the stuns are up. It's now Apollo dying on the hands of Talon Esports, and this might just be the opening for Talon to take that tier 1 turret standing on top side.
This time not enough, but Allison takes so much damage in the process of trading against Polikaton, and so now need to start backing away. Now the Esports looking for a re-engage back onto the Corki.
PJ coming through to initiate the fight. Not following up. JJ is reserving the Zenith Blade, and the ultimate is almost done and complete for JJ to use again.
Nice try on the Crescent Guard, but timing a little bit off. Wasn't able to stop the Valkyrie. Teleport coming in now.
The root is there, but the Zenith Blade, Solar Flare to follow up. Final Spark following through, but the Witch has the shield up, so a lot more hinder damage coming down. But Everest loses 2 of their members. It's a Polycaton and Bewitched, slain by Talon Esports.
Difficult to go for the Baron now. They don't have the same kind of shred that they would have if they had a more traditional Marksman. Lucian can give them a bit more damage, but it's going to be difficult. At the same time, though, while we also have the jungle still up, so Tomato being alive here makes it difficult to try and commit for that. Best case scenario, I think you're just trying to deny away the jungle camps on the side of Everest, which I think have already been done, and start setting up for the Dragon.
This is going to be big though. If Talon Esports gets this, they have a huge chunk of percentage damage up against Everest. Remember the changes off Elemental Rift, huge chunks off buff from the Dragons, but Tomato is there to try and contest, but a CC, the stuns, the root are there, but the Zenith Blade alongside with
good timing.
Nico, but now the ultimate is there. Apollo and Tomato successively killed by Talon Esports with a Mountain Drake on top of it.
A lot to be found there. Talon Esports in a very comfortable position now, pulling the lead ahead. They were just 100 gold or 500 gold up, not 5,000 gold up, but 10x on their investment. Good way of putting it, I suppose. Everest trading back, trying to take down Nico, but the response back from Andy dashing in. The package used to get away.
Zenith Blade is there, Solar Flare followed through, but Andy, look at him. He's just going in for the free hit.
No.
Jay going to be popped here. And once he resurrects, he's dead. And now it's Talon Esports taking 4 kills with Brum the only one alive. Talon Esports is pushing through the mid lane.
And an intense situation there, Blue Bonnets wanted to knock Andy back, but Andy had repositioned closer towards Polikaton, and as a result was knocked into the Corki, able to finish the combo, take down the bot side counterpart on Everest. I mean, just a very good job, well done here by Talon, being able to play mechanically well and executing what needs to be done there. And on a nice edge as well, Andy narrowly walks out that fight still alive.
Yeah,
Hey, Elder Drake's coming up, Infi.
Yeah, we might see it. I mean, this was what you were telling us a while ago. Maybe we could see the Elder Drake. And this is it. 25 seconds up until the Elder Drake to be alive. And up until then, Baron Nashor still hasn't been taken by any one of these teams.
Difficult to go for Baron as Talon Esports. I think there's more value in forcing Everest to have to walk in and check on you doing the Baron than you actually having the Baron. So I think they're going to be happy with this one. That being said, I don't think Elder Dragon can be thought of at the same way. You actually have to commit for this and finish this one as soon as you can. So I think the Elder Dragon dance is going to be much more intense. And Everest really need to find good positioning with this one. We should not be seeing Apollo together with the rest of the team. She should be off at the side trying to look for the flank, and it should be on Tomato and Bewitched to get you into the fight instead.
Yeah, Garen has TP, but Blue Bonnets doesn't have any TP. So if this comes to worst, Talon Esports could just go in for the 5v4. And even then, Apollo is dead! So one down.
See why
for
you
Everest.
can't beat the team?
The Elder Drake is starting. Talon Esports is going to commit for this. Jace is just walking through. The Solar Flare is there. Glacial Fisher for the counter engage. And now with Valkyrie coming in from Corki, having that space is going to be very important. JJ is there. A lot of sustainability on the back lines. It's Garen going in for the match of justice. It's already a double kill. Then Blade to follow up for the root. It's the double. It's the ace for Talon Esports. And they can finish.
And Talon Esports take an amazing fight, taking down Everest, teleporting in, responding just slightly later, but they had the front to back that they needed for, they had the pickup potential that they needed for, and they get the win they were looking for against Everest.
Amazing plays coming in from Talon Esports. They played methodically rather on that game number 1. It's just amazing stuff. From the early game getting 2 objectives up until the mid game to the late game, they were consistent and they have won the first game of the series.
I really like what they're trying to get done here, right? Having the idea to go for the mage, especially once mage bot side, especially when you have already banned away the Karma, the Ziggs, the Orianna, a lot of those other options they can deal with the Lux realistically well, kind of taken away. And Everest, they did have that early bot side power. We saw Ellison and JJ kind of shoved and away from the wave and sent back on the turret, but we saw very quickly they were able to identify that this was a vulnerability on the EV side as well, because Everest doesn't have much mobility. Sweet Jane could rotate down to the bot side, get that pickup, find that first kill, and from then on starts to open up the game a little bit more. Job well done across the board here. Apparently Andy did really well. I mean, the score says so, at least.
And
damage numbers say so.
And something that I want to commend is Ellison as well with the Lux. She had like a keen eye and it was like a sniper. That final spark consistently taking kills, and it was Apollo getting the bad end of that final spark. It was just insane coming from Ellison.
I mean, medalist, by the way. So
True.
put some expectations up there. Putting in some expectations up there for Talon Esports for sure. I think we also saw Grand Sky Eris in the brackets towards in the top side in the quarterfinals too, right? So like that is a stacked matchup. That being said though, they're on like opposite ends of the bracket, so if we do end up seeing them play, it's going to be like a pretty long journey before we actually get to a point where they end up facing off against each other. If they do face against each other, I think it might just be finals, honestly.
Grand finals. Yeah. 2 SEA Games representatives. It's going to be hell of a matchup if we get there. But before we go through that, we're going for a short break before the second game. It's going to be exciting. It's already Talon Esports on match point. So be ready for the next matchup. We're going to take a short break. I'm Infinity, and this is Grandin. See you guys later. Welcome back, everyone, to the FSL Wild Rift Open 3 for its second series today between Talon Esports and Space Gamer Everest. We're in. Talon Esports got the first strike in this series. I'm Infinity, and there's Grandin with me. And Grandin, we saw a massive play from Talon Esports just a while ago.
Yeah, they really managed to step things up since the last time we've seen them play. I feel like the presence of having like a coach and having someone that is able to help you guys figure out what the game plan is going to be has helped them a lot here. Versus what we saw in the SEA Games, where it was difficult for them to find that coach role. They did have someone go on stage, but I believe that that one was also like a kind of separate arrangement, and so it wasn't exactly what they were practicing with. So we can kind of see now that difference come into play. They were much more concentrated. They were better. They better understood what needed to be done for their game plan. Being able to use a lot of the pickup potential that Ellison provided, as well as really strong pressure in their side lanes, or in their solo lanes, I should say, and overall just being able to better execute one for their win condition.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an impenetrable and bulletproof laning phase that they had just a while ago, and it was just phenomenal coming in from Talon Esports. So we'll see how this game 2 would work. How would Space Gamer Everest tackle on the draft? How would they go in for the bans or picks that they would do for this game?
Let's see what they have in store for us here. I do believe they will be switching sides, and so Everest now on the blue side, so they get to have that first pick. I think it was the Lucian that went first pick this in the last game, something along those lines. Either way, want to see what kind of what they want to try and go for. Honestly, Talon could try and go for like a stronger late game scaling kind of composition if they so desired. I think the Jax could be really nice. If they leave open a bunch of enchanters, they could end up picking it up for themselves.
Yeah, I think we're seeing sort of a similar bans here, right? Nothing has changed so far. It's Karma, it's Ari, it's Yumi, exactly the same bans as Space Gamer Everest had from game number 1. And from Talon Esports, Sinj and Olaf was also their first 2 bans alongside with Senna.
So getting rid of the Yumi, so it's not going to be so straightforward. I do believe they still this does still mean they have a couple of like enchanters that could come up. The fact that Senna was banned away from by Talon shows they don't really want to allow that through and give them like an easy kind of laning phase. Think about where Senna does best in, it's with stuff like the Nasus, and Nasus is such an easy champion because you're able to make the opponents not able to play the game as well because of the wither effect, and then you're obviously able to set up with the rest of your team with the Spirit Fire. And so you think about where not only the strength of the Senna, but also the indirect strength you gain with the other champions. Makes sense why they might want to do that. Avoiding the idea for something like a Jax instead committing again with a Xin Zhao, but the fact is they went for the Xin Zhao early on. A lot less flexibility there. If they had gone for something like the Wukong, could still look to try and potentially flex that one around, but instead showing their hand a little bit more, maybe just want to go for the top side pickup right away, and avoid any and then leave the rest of your options still up.
Yeah, I think Talon Esports is thinking, like, don't fix what's not broken. Like, they played Xin Zhao and Garen a while ago phenomenally, especially Nico Lack having the ability to access the backlines and just sweeping away Lucian and Lux alike. Well, not Lux, but Lucian and another champion that is really squishy for Space Gamer Everest was really amazing. But now Space Gamer Everest is the first one who's going to change their draft with now a Thresh in mind.
Aha! So this was something else they had also hovered last game. They were deciding between this and the Braum. Ultimately decided on the Braum. But now with the Thresh, they gives them a little bit more initiation, a little bit more initiative. That being said, though, that was because they had a composition last game that fit that very well. Now it's not exactly the same. This Thresh won't be as compulsory or as needed as what we saw last game when you already had a lot of your engage blocked, but now also doubling down on the Lee Sin. So lots of engage coming through from EV side.
Yeah, I mean, you have the lantern to catch up onto champions that's falling behind. You have the hook. You have Lee Sin, who's going to be aggressive in the early game. So a lot of these openings for Space Gamer Everest now that we're here in game number 2. And Lux to follow through for Talon Esports performed really well for LSN just a while back. So that's locked in for Talon as we're going in for the second phase bans with Shen banned away by Talon.
Okay, so you get rid of the Shen. You don't want to have that big map roaming kind of option there. Again, like you said, don't fix what isn't broken. Talent Esports go back towards the same idea and composition as before. This time around, though, they haven't banned away a lot of the other really strong bot lane mages, and so Ziggs is still up. If the Lucian chooses to go into the mid side instead, you could play the Ziggs, and the Ziggs could do decently against the Lux. You match a lot of that tempo, you have a lot of the same wave clear, and you have that semi-global ultimate that can keep up with the final spark from the Lux side.
Yeah, I love this ban coming in from Space Gamer Everest though. They know the Talent Esports is still lacking one damage dealer, and banning away Corki removes that potential for them to pick it up. So now Talent Esports is prioritizing a support first so that it overshadows the potential ADC or carry that they could bring up.
Really just doubling down and sticking the same composition as before, and nothing wrong with that as well, right? Since a lot of the better options have been kind of removed there. So now you want to decide between the Renekton and the Set. So I'll give you guys a little understanding of when you would go for either of these two options. So the Renekton does really well when you are looking to try and when you want to have a strong laning phase and you want to be able to really get in on the flank and take down one of the key priority targets. Whereas with the Set, you can do that. You can have a lot of that damage, but at the same time, the difference being your focus is a lot more on pickups, which you don't really need as much when you already have the Thresh and the Set. You can leave that role to them, instead focus on your sides. The Brand is an interesting pickup though, not something we've seen very much of recently, something that was very popular in Season 0 of Wild Rift Esports, but has since fallen off there. Big reason why the brand does well is, of course, again, the wave clear and a lot of that burst potential, but also because it's able to be quite self-sufficient. Relatively long range, can stay away from a lot of targets, but very susceptible to assassins, and I think Talon Esports spot that out.
Yeah, and Akali is the one who was chosen by Talon Esports to be their mid lane. And I also like how you talked about the brand just a while back, because looking at the composition of Talon Esports, there are 4 melee champions. So that the ultimate is just gonna bounce around pretty much just on everyone.
Yeah, being able to get around and hit a lot of the targets gives them just so much more value. But at the same time, I also do really worry about dying to the assassins or to the crowd control or to the burst, because Niku could come in, you could have Andy come in, and it is quite easy to take down the brand and then reset from there. I think Everest need to be quite careful about making sure that the brand is going to be safe, and it's going to be a lot on the position of Plickaton. Plickaton did a good job on, I believe, the Corki last game, so still looking forward to see how she intends to perform, how she performs this game, and how she intends to approach this very difficult task, going up against a lot of the engage and the burst potential from Talon.
Yeah, and there's also another layer for Space Gamer Everest to overcome, because there are only two pillars for them. It's basically just Tresh and Apollo doing the job of peeling for pretty much everyone else, because Lee Sin is never going to tank late. And these two teams, I believe, is just a huge contrast between each other.
Slight difference here though. Eevee this time around do have some decent late game options here with the brand, giving them a lot of damage into the later phases of the game. Where it is going to be different is last time they had some options to better deal with Elizin and burst her out. Now it's going to be more centered towards Tomato's ability to do that, but it's going to be so difficult to get to the lugs when you have such a strong front line in the wave first. Very frankly, Tomato and Andy both have to work cut out for them. It's not going to be easy diving in and finding much value when the opponent has such a strong front line to block your entry.
Yeah, definitely going to be something that SG Everest wants to do for this game 2. Especially that Talon Esports is already at match point, 1 game away for winning the series. Now that we're here though, it's Brand going into the bottom lane with Thresh instead of Illusion Thresh that we typically see. And just a while ago, you talked about how Brand could be used up against these assassins. And do you have any thoughts of this? Why Brand is going to the bot lane instead of mid lane?
Well, I think it's the same principle as what we've seen from Brand before in the past. When it was heavily popularized by, I believe it was Thunder Talk at the time, and the big reason behind that is you get so much wave clear, you get so much safety, your support can roam around, you can still deal with your wave quite well there. At the same time, you're going to have a lot of damage as you go into the later phases of the game, so just a very comfortable position to be in. The bot side, of course, you're only vulnerable to ganks from one side of the map, whereas if you're in the mid lane, as an immobile champion, you're oftentimes going to have to deal with targets coming in from multiple angles.
Alright, but now it's Tomato going over the wall. Sweet Jane and Tomato has roamed into the mid lane. Both jungles are ready to fight, but not going for an all-in. In the bottom lane, though, it's Plickaton. Really, really low already.
Getting him low down fast. Talon Esports also maybe trying to set up for something in the bot side river. Doesn't seem like they're going to be able to get that much done though. It is just going to be a fight between Bewitch and JJ. I don't think Andy can rotate down. So what they were trying to do there in the mid side for a moment, if you could tell, was Andy was trying to get the wave shoved in so that they could get some prio and rotate around the map. That's why they had Sweet Jane come by, clear out the wave with them. Unfortunately for them, Tomato comes in and just has a little bit more dueling power to start. The 2v2 matchup just goes a little bit more in their favor. And so they managed to get some control here, which is why they're looking to pick up both Scuttle Crabs on both sides of the river.
Yeah, and that's just a prowess of a Lee Sin that we talked about a while ago when it consider the game so much more superior when it comes to that potential to aggress the enemy team. And so far, it's really holding up for Everest up against Talon Esports. But for now, still even level playing field for both teams. They're playing their laning phase, they're playing their farms, so that later on they could potentially go in for a contact and team fight.
think we're going to see the game slow down quite a bit, you know, just generally with how both these compositions are going to run. Not as big of a rush there. As I say that, a fight towards the top side, and then gang towards the bot side too.
The Ignite as well onto Garen. I don't think that's enough though to burst him down. However, Lee Sin, Tomato, is roaming on top side. Already has her ultimate up. Sonic Wave, will that connect though? The kick is there, but just a
Ooh.
good flash from Nico Lack to go under turret.
And also using the W right away, so you get a little extra resistance. You saw how little damage she took from the Dragon's Rage, and Dragon's Rage isn't... I believe the Dragon's Rage is not the execute spell, but I think if the Sonic Wave of Resonating Strike was used, that does some execute damage, so just being able to time that very well there. Job well done.
Yeah. Chain just roaming around, but they have the information. They have a ward on bot side river, so that Lantern is just a lot of safety net coming in from Everest to play with, and also an engage tool later on.
So I guess we're at this point now where not very much is going to happen for a little bit. So I guess we can take some time, catch our breath, and figure out what needs to be done here, right? And not just, you know, in this game, but perhaps in the future as well, moving forward for both these teams. I feel like Talon Esports, they've made a lot of growth and improvement, but at the same time, when we're watching out for what might come for the future, we've only really seen them play 2 games on the same composition, and so very difficult to know exactly what they have prepared. I am always a big fan of sticking to something simple and something that you are well versed to first before expanding beyond it, beyond your current capabilities, which I feel like is also kind of like the purpose of having this competition, right? Is to give these teams an opportunity to play with some incentive as well. Whereas on the Everest side, we've seen them with a lot of versatility and very interesting reads on the draft as well. You know, I don't think many teams would go for the brand in the bot side. Do I think it's bad? No, not at all. I think it is a very good adaptation, especially knowing that they already have like the Lux on the opposing force. But it is just going to be the fact that they are committed for the brand as opposed to something like this that does catch my attention.
Yeah, it also might just be like the active practice champion pool. I think Talon Esports has this draft in mind already. They've practiced with the Garen, with the Sin Jiao, and all these champions in mind. I mean, we've seen the performance of Elizan just a while back, so really, really amazing stuff there. And maybe Everest has played with the brand in their practice, so it might just be that it's just so flexible, and their adaptation, as you stated, is amazing. But as of now, it is Talon Esports who got the Rift Herald, and on the other hand, Everest taking the Dragon.
Doing a good job clearing out the wave. JJ won't be able to get the crowd control to land. Able to stick there. Looking for some damage towards the top side turret. Gets a little bit down. Apollo trying to maybe find the kill. Won't be able to get there. No first turret down just yet. Talon Esports need to regroup and reconsolidate the efforts and maybe take down that topside turret before doing anything else.
Yeah, and it feels like we're playing a horror game right now, Brandon. Look at the map. There's no vision for anyone.
I see quite a good amount of vision for Everest actually, Iffy. Like, that's like 5 wards. I don't know.
I mean, for Talon Esports, it's like one ward from the bot side and 1 ward on top
Yeah,
side.
but you know, it's fine. You got tanks in the side lane. They're fine, Iffy. I'm sure they're fine. But that is a good point that you're raising, right? The idea is like how much risk are they able to afford to take, especially with a lot of the setup that Everest are going to be able to make. Trying to look for a dive, for example. Talon Esports genuinely do have quite a bit of survivability. They have some tankiness going for them, and if they get some early information, like with this one, with the setup, Sweet Jane's able to rotate over, provide some support, and you always have to account for a major factor that Everest do not have. It's Elizan's ultimate. If she has it up, wave throw is not an issue.
Oh, but now we're going to have an engage. It's a 3v2 already. That's Nico Lack pinned down. ST Everest taking him down. But so far, JJ was able to go back, but Everest was already able to take down 1.
Yeah, they respond with the kill onto Blue Bonds instead. So remember how I was saying that, you know, they didn't have to worry about things? Not if they walk into it themselves. That is the caveat to the situation, right? They have to be very careful about that. They thought they were going to be alright with the Crescent Guard, but of course, you're not that tanky. So you need to be a little bit aware that could potentially happen. Everest might actually be able to find first turret at the top side as a result of this. They do have the Demolish coming through, and so, yeah, there we go. First turret.
Yeah, and Elizan tried to do something there, but the final spark wasn't enough to clear the whole wave, and that is a 3-man roam from Everest. So a turret taken brings them to a 1k gold lead. Not that much, but still a significant amount in this early game.
Bonsai turret is going to go down as well, and then because they were able to get that kill on the blue bonnet, but I mean, just Polycaton just gets free time on that turret, so 2 turrets very quickly to Everest, and it's a bit of a gold swing over to their way, not gonna lie, but Talon Esports, they do have 2 turrets very close going down on their part as well. Difference is this time is you have a really strong damage combo between your top side and your jungler now. Apollo and Tomato working with the Renekton Lee Sin. It's just very easy to execute. You have a point and click stun with a Renekton, and then you follow that up with the Lee Sin. Lee Sin's able to dash in. Should be able to hit all your spells, right? Literally point and click stun, hit all your spells. You have an insane amount of damage for any 2v2 combo, especially around this time of game. So there's a really strong setup towards the top side, and I think Everest are aware of that, and because of that, making use of it and becoming stronger. 2 kills in Tomato so far.
Yeah. And I also want to talk about the counterpart, because you talked about Tomato, right? I want to talk about Sweet Jane, because as of yet, she's only level 8. And Tomato is almost at level 10. So the level difference, the gold difference between these 2 junglers are scary, to say the least. Especially now that the Rift Herald's coming up, the Ocean Drake's coming up. It's looking quite dangerous.
Yeah, Rift Herald's already up, and Everest are the ones in control first. A little bit more damage out from Ellison. She tries to set up for the fight here. Rift Herald started up, Everest go onto it, and he's far away. It's gonna be difficult to fight for this one.
Jane's still at level 9. That's an Imagine Justice onto Thresh. She's already down, but look at that. They're split up. Everest has to go back in to get her. But Polycaton, it's a 1v1 up against an assassin. You can never win that. And Andy takes her down. It's a double for Talon Esports.
Very nice mechanical skill there. We saw Andy flash over the initial proc of the brand passive, and this is so critical because otherwise she gets hit by the stun, and that's going to cost them a lot there. Trying to look for a catch on the Ellison, but a well-timed flash would get her back towards the right side of the Lee Sin, and so back towards safety. And now they need to reset, join back in, get ready for this dragon fight.
Yeah, and Tomato is ready, but that's a 3-man roam from Talon Esports. Despite the level disadvantage from Sweet Jane, that's a lot of members from Talon Esports to fight up against, especially if you're alone. But as of yet, it's Apollo just pushing on top side, so it might just be a 4v5 if ever Talon Esports went for the Drake.
Talon Esports are trying to pull the dragon out a little bit. I think they might want to walk over, but they have to worry about the mid wave crashing in first. We start to see some of the power that Polycaton can have, but at the same time also the weaknesses that they have when you have the opposing force collapsing in on you very quickly like that. I said Andy was far away, apparently not far away enough, very quickly able to walk back in. Damage onto Elizabeth, Flash was used the last time around.
She's down already, and now with Apollo just going into the backside, it's with the Dominus. The stun's not gonna connect onto Andy, the kick is there already from Tomato onto JJ. But that's a 1-for-1, but a support traded for Elizant as their APC.
But they used quite a bit to get the kill on the Ellison, so maybe with this one they could still try and look for a fight, but I think mid lane turret is just more tantalizing for now. Talon Esports get the juice, at least something back. It's gonna be Nico, of course. I think she is right. Oh, one hit away!
Yeah! One more hit. Not connect. Although Everest will be able to take down the Ocean Drake, so that's already 2 dragons in their favor, 11 minutes into the matchup.
It is 2 turrets going their way though, which is quite nice there for 2 dragons going their way, which is quite nice for Everest. They've got 2 turrets, they got 2 dragons. Talon Esports have been scaling silently, but at the same time, they want to be able to finally get some returns on all the hard work they've been putting in. Top side turret went down, but that bot side and mid side turret need to go as well.
Yeah, it's painful to see a 39 HP turret. 39 HP!
We've seen some pretty crazy HP Nexuses in Fee, and
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I have to say, this one hurts quite a bit as well. It's like right there. Yeah, I could definitely get that.
Yeah, it's just out of your reach for a couple of seconds. But more or less, it's gonna go down in a bit when Talon Esports goes for an aggression in mid lane. Baron Nashor coming up at 5 seconds, but As the pattern we've seen in the past, it's not going to be going down that easy. Sometimes even going 20 minutes without it being taken. So expect it to be later than sooner.
I think the game is going to slow down quite a bit here, so don't think anything is really going to happen. Don't think there's really any fight to go for. I think both sides just are going to take some time, recoup, lick their wounds, chill out for a moment.
Yeah. I mean, they're having a breathing time at the moment. It's just Everest just going back into farming a bit, but Talon Esports is not waiting steadily. It's now Tomato just getting pinned down with a light binding, rooting her down. And now it's Brand going for the ultimate as well onto Sweet Jane, but not going to be enough damage as that's a Xin Zhao that you're targeting. And now with two-man light binding, Talon Esports having the advantage. They're going through for the second tier turret. The exhaust is there onto the Renekton. Not going to be enough. They're happy with that kill.
Very nicely well done there by Talon Esports. Could have got a little bit more, but it was difficult there. Everest responded very well. The timing from Blue Bonnet did them very well there. Still, Talon Esports get the one, and they know that this is going to work again in the future. There's very little that Everest are going to do to prevent this. Even if they try and do the absolute best to maintain vision, to cut out, to try and check every brush, there's only so much you can do, especially with the Baron on the top side of the map. You have to always be aware that this could potentially be a pick-up option.
Zenith Blade connects onto Blue Bonnet, and he's there. Just be a follow-up, but not gonna pull through once again. It's just consistent 4-man roam from Everest and Talon Esports that they now have to just be wary of where each other is for Everest and Talon Esports.
It is going to be difficult to try and go in without the ultimate. Andy was very close to picking up a kill the last time around. But so close yet so far at the same time. It is a little unfortunate. What we do see here from Nico is the fact that she's not gone for the Hellbreaker. Still just going for damage items. Different position from what we saw last game, especially since now Apollo a little bit more ahead, can make up for some of the deficit that the champion of the champions that she's playing. Also trying to go for a little bit more control there, so Nico not able to go and push as well as she was able to last game. Going to have to focus a bit more attention with the rest of the
Yeah, definitely will do that. We'll see as right now, it's just Everest. They're just afraid of Talon Esports going for the Baron Nashor under their hands, but yeah, it's Nico Lock and Apollo. It's not that easy to kill.
It is not. It is not an easy kill at all, and so I think Everest at this point want to be a little bit aware that the Baron being up. Am I? Easy kill for Apollo though.
Yeah. Getting the Black Cleaver BRK up against Nicolak. That's a kill for SG Everest. So one man down for Talon Esports. In here, Apollo is just hiding on the brush. Andy, fight up against Apollo in a 1v1. That's going to be hard. That's going to be difficult, but she's doing it. It's a final execution. 5-point strike will not connect. The flash is there with a burn. And in the end, it's Andy taking her down, but trade for Everest for the turret.
Yeah, mid-side turret goes down, but the Dragon's coming up in about 20 seconds. I think that is enough time for Nico to get back into the fight. I think Apollo's going to be a little bit late. That being said, it's still going to be the 4 vs 4. JJ's down at this point. I think even with the teleports, Apollo is going to be unable to join to the fight, but Talon need to make the decision to go there now.
Yeah, and something interesting while we're waiting for the objectives to come up is that both these teams have 2 players that represented in the SEA Games. Elazent and Andy from Talon Esports. And for SG Everest, we have Tomato and The Witch. So really interesting stuff here that we're having. It's a 2v2 battle of the SEA Game representatives. So both of them are even level playing field when it comes to experience.
I feel like Polycaton is such a familiar name. I can't recall if she played in the SEA Games or not, or maybe somewhere else. It's such a familiar name.
Yeah, I can't answer you on that. it's familiar, but I can't recall as well.
Right. I mean, it's just such a distinct name. It's a very nice name. It's a very distinct name, Polycaton. And so I could have sworn I heard this one. I'm pretty sure I casted it at some point. Might have been in the previous FSL Open. That's been a while.
I mean, to be fair, you casted pretty much everything, so...
I feel like that's
Maybe
like
one of them.
it just means that I don't remember enough of what I cast, which is a bad thing. You know, sometimes it just slips by my mind. Because there is such a story to be told. You know, these girls are doing like an amazing job. Would be nice to be able to recall that. I'm going to focus on this right now because I think this is a very interesting stalemate position where Everest are actually on the winning side of things because Nico cannot win the 1v1 against Apollo right now.
Yeah, and
Very different position from what we've seen before.
definitely. Right now, Andy though, 2v1. That's a kick coming in from Tomato. Nice play. Stasis Enchant buying some time. Final execution onto Tomato as well, and now he's stuck. The safeguard away over the wall. A lot of safety, but Andy's just gonna get burned.
Good timing to bait them in, but Andy goes down at the end of the exchange. It's not that worthwhile here. Blue Bond is still with plenty of damage. They had to overcommit so much for that fight.
This is onto the Zenith Blade because of the Stasis Enchant. The hook is there coming from the Witch as well. The culling. This is a lot of damage. Now Elizan's low, with the Ignite taking her down. C-Jane. Not gonna be enough to go back. And now it's SG Everest coming through. JJ really low. Final spark coming from Lux. Not enough to bring one man down. It's the double kill is there. And Apollo is pushing on top side. Nico Lack is trying to defend, but too tanky. That's the inhib turret down.
I think Nico had to focus on clearing out the wave. Like, that should have been her priority. That should have been the focus, trying to clear out the wave as quickly as possible, because without the minions, Apollo's going to have a difficult time taking down the turret. Instead, trying to put damage down to Apollo doesn't work out as well for her, especially since she's opted for the Bramble Vest this time around, trying to go for some additional armor against Apollo. Just a very different situation. Now, this does seem to be Everest's Baron taking hand, and he's going to have a difficult time trying to get in time. I'm not sure if Sweet Jane is looking for the teleport in. Doesn't seem to be the case. Fine, dive in there. We'll go over to Everest in the end.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Sweet Jane is not there. Andy's potential to take that steal was just a final execution into 5-point strike, but not enough damage. So now SG Everest has the Baron buff, but the Elder Drake is still there for Talon Esports to take or to contest.
Yeah, I don't think Talon Esports can contest this. I think they're just going to have to give this one up, and it's going to be a massive boost over to Everest. Not sure what else there is to be said about this one. I think Everest have all the tools on all the right places to close out the game with this Elder Dragon going their way. They have the damage to already win the fight. Now with additional execute, just makes things so much easier on their end to really close this one out.
Yeah. It's a Baron Nashor and the Elder Drake buffed together. It's looking quite difficult for Talon Esports to be able to match up against this. They just have to burn these buffs down if they could.
Some big boy buffs going on. You see some of the damage come through, even with just a couple of spells.
Just look at the culling. Andy's already down 3/4 her HP. But Blue Bonnet's alone, and every single lane is being pushed. Apollo on top and Apollo on mid. They're just roaming all around. It's Talon Esports now on the brink of death. It's the Nexus already open. All lanes are already exposed. Andy were able to go back into the fountain, but Sweet Jane and JJ is already down, and it's over. It's Everest now being able to crush down Talon Esports 1-1 here in the series.
That's the execute from the Elder Dragon buff coming into play, taking them down. We finally get to see it in a competitive setting, and it is so satisfying to see. Well done there. Bouncing back, Everest now on the blue side, get the composition that they want to try and go for. Coming in here with the innovation, with the brand, a bit of a flash from the past, but coming in here, being able to take the win back against Talon Esports, now tying the series up 1-1. As Digon would say, we have a series on our hands. So now Talon Esports need to find a way to close this one out. Very close, had basically the same composition they had last game. So now they need to figure out exactly where things went differently and how to get back to the first game success.
Yeah, and a while ago we were questioning like how would Everest be able to tackle Talon Esports on their second game, and I think just the answer to that is, picking up this early game potential composition, and Blue Bonnets and Polycaton just wreak havoc in the Rift.
Interestingly enough, as well, I think Apollo's decision to switch over to a more sustained focused build with the Renekton, I think Nico's unwillingness to commit to the damage also kind of cost them because they were more focused on surviving against Tomatoes engage, against Apollo's damage. Nico couldn't afford to go for the same kind of damage build that she had last game, which was a bit of an issue for them. Maybe this is a sign to go back to the full damage Garen again, and that could be worthwhile for them. Maybe just avoid the Bramble back at all, the Bramble Vest at all. Just go straight for the Hullbreaker, go back in again for the Guardian Angel, and just try and play for more damage, take down the backline because could have been close for it. You know, you have some good options for it. For it, the Brand, the Lucian, there are some options for play there.
Yeah, it could possibly be. I mean, Garen from the game one was a game changer for Talon Esports. Proved that Garen could deal damage too, not just to peel for her teammates. So we'll see how that would turn out for game number 3. Because as you stated, and as Degon stated, we have a series on our hands. So stay tuned for everyone that is currently watching. As game 3 will be back later after this short break. Welcome back, everyone, to FSL Wild Rift Open 3 for our third game of the series. I mean, everyone's match point. It's Talon Esports and SG Everest, both at 1 point each. So this game 3 will be the deciding factor on who wins this series.
Good points, Infi. Yes, if you win the games, you do continue the
Yes.
competition. Good points, Affinity. And what a good look from both these teams, right? They've done incredibly well to bring it to this point. With Space Gamer Everest, they've switched things up significantly in game number 2 and were able to play better towards their strengths. I feel like their top side has really stepped up in that second game. Whereas what we saw from Talon Esports, where they doubled down the same composition that worked well for them in the first game. Second game, they did encounter some turbulence and some issues that they now have to try and resolve by the time they go to the third game. That being said, though, they will be going on the blue side, so I'm not sure if that does change the strategy at all here, or if this just means that Space Gamer Everest will be able to play for whatever they want to do on the red side yet again.
Yeah, because on the first game and the second game, we had pretty much exactly the same bands. We just had different picks and we had a different side selection, right? From game 2, it was Everest who was on the blue side, and from game 1, it was Talon on blue. So right now, who's on the blue side, who's on the red side? It is Talon who's on the blue side now. So is that going to be an indication or a signal that Talon Esports have the advantage, or is it not?
I would say generally, sure, you could say that blue side might have an advantage because Brits had to expand a lot to ban away the enchanters, stuff that is just strong in general, and so you don't really have many other bans to kind of take away from strong options on the opposing side. As we are ready to jump into our picks and bans to see what they want to try and get done in the game plan here. Talon will continue with the same bans they've been showing us throughout this series, doubling down again. Yet again on the Singed, Senna, and Olaf bans. Whereas what is interesting to me and what's caught my attention here is the Lucian ban taken away, and so not wanting to leave that up. We saw how well Blue Bonnets was able to execute on that last time around, so maybe this time not wanting to give it to Talon Esports on that first pick.
Yeah, but that leaves the Karma open because in the past it was Karma, Yumi, and Ari that was banned away. And now Space Gamer Everest could pick up the Corki for themselves if they want to later on, if they opt to go for that, but instead denying the Garen away from Talon Esports.
Yeah, getting the Garen away this time around, it might have to be Talon Esports on the opposite end of the exchange, and this time around with the Renekton. I think they could still afford to go for some other options. I don't think they have to commit to that matchup just yet. Could still try and go for the flexible pickups. I think they will end up going for the Xin Xiao. I think that just seems like something that Sweet Jane is most comfortable on. But at the same time, would love to see something like the Wukong come through. You know, just gives them so much flexibility, so much power. And with the Karma, they already have something that fits very well in that bracket. If not, something like the Jax could work as well. Especially now with Karma and Shen already up. Tell me this is going to be a Jax pickup, please.
It could be. I mean, a hyper carry jungle would be that a good fitting for this draft, especially that you have Karma and Shen in the same lineup. But instead, going for a Wukong.
I mean, I did say the Wukong as well before I thought about the Jax. This totally makes sense. Like, first gut instinct, this makes perfect sense. That being said, later down the line, as I was thinking a little bit more about where things could possibly be, it did feel generally like it was going to be more in... there was more opportunity there with the Jax, but Wukong works just as well here.
Yeah, although I'm liking what I'm seeing right now for Space Gamer Everest. They picked up the Corki, so now Talon Esports will be forced to pick something else later on. With Kaisa banning away, they're really focusing on banning away the bot lanes, the ADCs, away from Talon Esports.
Because what happens here is Elysian can't really go for the Lux. She could technically go for the Lux, but they would be put in a more difficult position because their scaling options would be quite limited. And we saw what happened last game because they didn't have damage to finish off the Baron and the Dragon. That was really never up on the table for them. So now I think they are looking to try and maybe pick up some additional damage in the bot side, maybe have Elysian play for something like that as well. And I think Everest are doing a good job reading that and banning away a lot of the strong, stable options that would be available generally in that bot side.
What do you think about the Siren Rakan?
I think if you try to go for that, you could potentially make it work. I think the Rakan is looking quite good right now, but I don't feel like Xayah necessarily provides the most value for your team, especially when you're looking to try and run into them. This is not a composition where they run into you, but more so you're running into them. So it is a little bit difficult to play front to back. And of course, I think there is always that option
Yeah.
for Everest to steal with the Rakan before you can.
Absolutely. And if they do, I mean, it's Gaio that could be open for Talon Esports as well. You talked about this a while ago, pre-game number 1 or pre-series number 1, but instead they're going for Vayne.
Well, I mean, when all else fails, why not, right? Why not? And so Elysian going to go in for the Vayne instead. I was hoping for a hyper carry in the jungle, but it's the bot side is the hyper carry option. So works just as well. I see where they're coming from now. All right, I get it. And then the Lulu is going to come in as that supplementary support, giving them a little more assistance there. Of course, with the Shen and Karma and the Wukong, there's just so many layers to get through before you even get to that point. Everest do have a lot of combos, and they do have a lot of damage. Ziggs coming through with the Galio, coming through with the Jarvan, with the Garen, and everybody else. It makes it very easy for them to take down the Vayne. Elysian is going to have her work cut out for her. I don't want to put the pressure on her, but win or lose, a lot of it is going to come down to how well she's able to perform here on the Vayne.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that will be the hyper carry for Talon Esports. But looking at Space Gamer Everest as well, it's looking like a sort of a team fight composition that has huge potentials because of a Galio and a Jarvan 4 that could just engage the fights.
The Galio is definitely going to help them out quite a bit, especially with the combos that they have. But a big reason why they're trying to go run for this kind of composition is because of how well they pair together with the Jarvan, for example, because you get the Cataclysm in, after that you get the Ziggs ultimate in, and you get the Galio ultimate in. A lot of damage lands onto a target that cannot really run away, and even if they do, expanding a lot of summoner spells in the process. There is a very interesting thought experiment, though, between the idea of making your opponent have to buy QSS and making your opponent have to buy Hourglass. In this situation, I think it's quite obviously an Hourglass angle for most of the team for Talon Esports. If you had something else that needed you to go and buy QSS, for example, if you had some hard crowd control, I'm just trying to think of something on the top of my mind. It's not really coming to me, but just say we have something like that has strong crowd control. It's able to makes you buy the QSS. You have this very awkward split decision, having to decide between those two. In this one, a little bit more straightforward for Talon Esports, but still not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, we'll see QSS versus Hourglass later on when it comes to the end chance for Talon Esports. But right now, we're here on game number 3. We're here in the Rift, the deciding factor for this series on who would win the overall matchup. Because right now, it's Corki on mid lane, Ziggs on bot lane, matchup with Vayne on bot and Karma on mid.
Everest are going to be able to take a little bit more time in the bot side. You know, there's the safety. Recently, what we've seen from them so far is that even with the brand game, similar caster mage in the bot side, but still a little bit different from the Ziggs. Now, truly gets to have the full roaming potential in the bot side, gets to move around the map a lot more, and just be relatively safe, right? Polikaton's going to be able to just hold her own in the bot side. So I feel like a bit more onus onto Everest here to get things moving to begin with, since you know that your bot side is going to be safe. You get to go to the mid lane, you get to go to the top side, and really just put the pressure on the Talon before they keep scaling up.
Yeah, because Vayne isn't really the champion that has the best range So Polycaton
Oh,
definitely
absolutely
will
not. Yeah.
have a better time in during the laning phase, as if Elizant wants to be aggressive, she has to overextend a bit to deal damage onto Polycaton, especially with the Galio in mind. It's going to be difficult.
That being said, I don't expect her to be greedy. I think that she can afford to just play very safe here and just focus on keeping a strong lead or just staying even. In fact, should be enough and sufficient here for Elizabeth in the bot side. She can continue to pick up some additional gold elsewhere on the map, for example, through the jungle camps. That is also a very interesting thing to think about, because as we look towards this match in this interesting start here. They're going to try and fight for the Skull Crest. I think Sweet Jin get both denied away from her. This is part and parcel of the Vayne match on the bot side. But also because what we're seeing here now is Talon Esports, they get this really interesting position where they just need to scale up 15-20 minutes into the game, and that's when they're going to be strongest. But if they give away too much, Everest end up picking up a little bit too much for their own good.
Yeah,
A little
especially
bit too much for Talon Esports to deal with.
Yeah, apologies for cutting you out, but especially having a Karma and Ludo in the same draft with a Vayne during the late game, this is going to be pretty much an unkillable Vayne. And it's going to be really, really strong with the extra movement speed and the extra attack coming in from the Lulu with the Pixie.
Yeah. Lulu, Vayne, Karma, Shen. I mean, there's just so much there to keep the Vayne safe and alive and protected. So again, so much of it is going to come down to Elizabeth on the Vayne, and she flashes into the Condemn, gets the stun on the Polycaton. First blood goes the way of Talon Esports, but a trade fight by Everest, with Tomato moving down to bot side, looking for the return kill.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about a while ago. If Elzant wants to deal damage and be aggressive, she has to overextend a bit, and that's what we saw a while ago. She overextended, she got the kill onto Polycaton, but she got traded in the end. So it's a 1-for-1 for both teams.
Still, kill goes over to Elizabeth, and so she gets a little bit more resources in that front. And Apollo, 2 games back-to-back with an amazing performance, a solo kill onto Nico without going down as well, getting some plates and a little extra gold for his trouble.
Yeah, and right now the difference between the golds on the Baron laner is quite significant. It's a 1.2k gold lead for Apollo himself or herself, and Nicolak is also losing a wave or two.
A very difficult position here for Nico to have to try and deal with now. Thankfully, I believe the Shen will be able to just keep scaling up and play the safer late game. Realistically, just needs to keep Elizabeth alive and also be able to hit the taunt, whereas Apollo definitely needs to find a little bit more value, stacking up the Black Cleaver and hitting those major backline targets. Now that we are looking for that first setup, as we hit the 5-minute mark, the Infernal Drag coming up. It's a bit more damage over the Everest. I don't think Talon Esports want to give that up, but I don't see them having a choice in the matter here.
Yeah, it wouldn't really be that much, especially with the Galio and a Garen that you're talking about here in the early game. In the first objective, a really difficult situation for Talon Esports to match up against. So Rift Herald could be their options as well to have that gold being funneled through for Talon Esports if ever SG Everest prioritizes the Infernal Drake.
Do we see some pings there from Everest getting ready to set themselves up for that one? I think some recalls have to happen here now for Talon Esports if they do intend to try and contest this at all. But with the vision kind of set up here for Everest and the package coming through, I think Talon Esports can afford to give this one up. It's not the biggest loss. It's going to matter. It does matter a little bit as you get later in the game. The stacking bonus, the percent bonus is just going to mean more. But I think this is a little risky. Elizabeth should not be farming in the bot side like this. There are just too many options, too many targets that can potentially look for the kill here.
Yeah, especially with SG Everest looking for the Infernal Drake being set it up by Jarvan 4 and Galio as well. And for now, Talon Esports not going to pursue the Rift Herald, and if ever, Apollo might just be in danger for that. It looks like Talon Esports want to test the Infernal Drake.
I don't really think this is a contest. I think they're just trying to scout for some information, maybe slow them out, or like stall them out so that they don't get to rotate over to the Rift Herald as quickly.
That's fair. However, Everest is now going for it. Jarvan 4 is already there. Wukong is very low. Galio going for the hero's entrance. Going for the knockback. Going for the knock-up. It's Cyclone might just have saved him, but Sweet Jane, it's the Ignite with Lulu with the heals. have saved Wukong. She goes back out. It's a 1-for-1 trade when it comes to objective.
That timing on the clone was phenomenal there. Because of the clone, they auto-attacked that instead and weren't able to get that last auto-attack onto Sweet Jane, so she lives as a result. My goodness. Just amazing timing on that one.
The heal as well from JJ. Because the Ignite
Sure.
was ticking away from Sweet Jane, so that was also phenomenal timing from JJ. Commendable play. But as of now, 6 minutes into the matchup, we have a 3k gold lead for SG Everest.
I think they get to take that time again. Not too concerning here. I think Infi, you can talk about whatever you want. You can talk about your favorite movie or something. I think we'll have enough time to get through all of that before the next thing happens again.
Huh. Favorite movie? I don't know. I don't watch movies that much.
I know you don't. I know you don't. That's therein lies the issue, right? I don't watch movies very much, and even I know some things. You just generally don't watch movies. I'm not sure what kind of content you're consuming, Infi. Just watching esports all the time?
Kind of, yeah.
Alright, you're such a big fan of esports. Name every esports player ever.
Oh my goodness. No,
No, it's a joke. It's a meme. Have you seen a meme before? Tell
Nope.
me that you know this meme. Are you
Nope.
serious? You don't know the meme?
I don't.
Ah, that's a little unfortunate there, Infi. Alright, well, that's fine. I feel like it's especially impactful because we are in FSL right now. I'm sure for the people that do understand the context, it makes more sense than what Infinity is representing right now. But hey, it is what it is.
Wait. What do you mean?
Don't worry about it. Breathfire will be very nice to use here if Sweet Chain's able to get some tempo and some pressure down. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult though. A lot of pressure here stacked by Everest as they want to get the bot side turret. He just focuses on clearing out the wave.
Yeah, Sweet Jane is there though. JJ is here as well. Green man run from Talon Esports, but on the opposite side of this match, it's Apollo receiving a lot of damage and Polykaton as well with the aggression of Talon Esports showcasing in the mid lane. And Tomato is there as well. Galio going for the hero's entrance. Will not be able to knock up onto anyone. So it's pretty much a stalemate in the mid lane.
Oh, absolutely. Ellison hunting for a kill here as well against Blue Bonnets, but it's going to be difficult. Overextending means a risk of losing her life. She already had that happen the last time around. She got the solo kill, but then very quickly, Tomato was there to return the favor. Now we're seeing a similar position. Good restraint here by Ellison. She's already hit the 2-item mark. Given a little bit more time, she's definitely going to start really hurting, especially against some of the tanks that we see on the side of Everest.
Yeah, especially now that JJ is also building up onto the Ardent Sensor, increase attack speed, that's going to hurt up against SG Everest. For now, with the Rift Herald being pushed out, it takes a turret down, so it's a nice goal for Talon Esports.
Absolutely. I think Everest are going to try and maybe pick up the second Rift Herald here. You have such an incredible combo here with the Ziggs, you know, just being able to use the Rift Herald and then the Satchel Charge almost definitely guarantees you the turret. I believe it does guarantee you the turret if you auto-attack it like 1 time the Empower auto-attack. So, just a very good value pickup to be had, especially when you have the package available. I think Talon Esports need to prevent this at quite a cost here. I wouldn't say at all costs, but at quite a cost, prevent the Rift Herald from going over to Everest. Otherwise, you do end up in a very awkward position where you could potentially lose 2 mid turrets before 15 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see, as now it's Everest starting the Rift Herald without any information for Talon Esports. No wards, no nothing. But Sweet Jen is there just around the corner, but might be too late as Everest takes the Rift Herald. This is what you're afraid of, Grandin. It's Everest taking the objective.
Yeah, this is quite worrying and quite problematic here, I think, for Talon Esports. Yeah, there we go. Also being able to get that turret there, it's an issue here for sure to be worried about. Having to flash away, commit both summers to get out. Now Elzen hunting for a kill mid.
Yeah, going for the attacks, the on hits. But right now, it's already a double. Polykaton and Tomato already
Scaling.
down. Corky with a Valkyrie going back away. Elizant going for an aggression, but with Bewitch, with the hero's entrance, zones Elizant away with a 2-for-1 trade.
Okay, but bot side turret is going down. Apollo's doing damage to it. The dragon is up. They need to worry about that too. There's so many things to worry about. They don't have enough hands, enough manpower on deck to deal with all of these issues at once. And that's a good response by Everest. They might have lost the mid fight, but frankly, because of how much value to get in the bot side, they were able to equalize these things quite a bit here.
Yeah, and Talon Esports finding themselves on the bot side of the map, but with that, Apollo just bought time for his teammates. Now Bewitch and Blue Bonnets along with Polycaton is here in the Mountain Dragon. If they get this, it's 2 dragons already in their favor.
I don't think Talon Esports can afford to fight for this one. They have to reset and go back to base before they get to do anything about it. I think the most they can do is get some additional gold by going towards the top side of the map, trying to pick up this top side turret. But again, there we have it. That's the power of the Rift Herald used here. Though could maybe look for more value with the Ziggs, but just committing to breaking down and opening up the map a little bit more, a little faster.
Yeah, the least possible way though, even if Talon Esports having a huge disadvantage when it comes to their game prowess of SG Everest, they still have the same amount of turrets taken down up against SG Everest. So at the very least possible way that is happening for Talon Esports, they only have a 3k gold deficit in 12 minutes into the matchup.
Not the biggest loss for Talon Esports. It is still very playable. The unfortunate problem is, yet again, Apollo in the side lane doing a very good job against Nico, and so now they have to worry about that. Elzen's starting to run in, looking to pick up some move speed. The exhaust on the Apollo, though.
Yeah, it's Elezen coming through, so it's a 2v1. Elezen pops off her ultimate, and Apollo's dead. For sure, that's true damage piercing through the armor of Apollo. Now
Not like she had much to begin with.
Yeah.
Not much armor to begin with, the greedy Garen build. I mean, does a lot of damage to the side lane, but of course very susceptible to the kills happening from Elizen. That being said though, we also saw quite a bit happen there. Apollo was very close and narrowly missing out on a kill. Could have almost taken down Nico, and if that did happen, we would have seen a very problematic situation. But now with Baron up, Talon have the power to take this one down if they can get a good angle on it. But Everest clustered and collected around the Baron, trying to prevent this one.
Yeah. Although something interesting, and I know that you don't want to talk about items that much, Grandin, but Elezen is building more of sustainability with the GA potential, building onto armor and also a longsword after a Phantom Dancer. So not necessarily like a full damage build.
Well, sure. I think that is reasonable, but at the same time, you know, it is rare to go like 5 damage items and your boots. So yeah, I think it's quite reasonable on both sides. I think Elezen will appreciate a little bit more survivability, and also just more attack speed is always nice, you know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But now it's Elezen going through to the back lines with a flank, and Sweet Jane, Cyclone onto Blue Bonnet. With a stasis engine buying some time, but she's down already. Bewitch has to flash away, but the flash again for Nico Lack is going to pursue that space. That's already a double kill. Looking forward for more. Tomato is already very low. They have to go back. No damage left for Everest.
It's Baron time.
Ding, ding, ding. I think it's the first time that we've seen Baron being taken at 14 minutes for 2 series now.
No, I think in the first series they definitely went for a little bit faster. I think I definitely recall it going down a little earlier in the first series. But the problem is Tomato and Apollo are both alive right now, so there is a little bit of risk of a steal, but thankfully they're going to be far away enough from the pit.
But Everest still committing. Elezen with a nice stun coming in from Tomato. She's already down, and now it's the only one left. Apollo, it's a 1v3, but with Elezen dealing damage you can't handle. So that's a double for Talon Esports along with a Baron buff.
Should be able to pick up a little bit more in the side lanes, in the jungle, and then very quickly look for a reset, and then come back in with the full force of all 5 members on the side of Talon Esports, and then very quickly we should start to see the map open up and reaching a point. 15 minutes is exactly where Talon Esports want to be at. They've hit 3-4 items in, and it's such a comfortable place to be. Everest, they're going to feel some discomfort for now, but they have to remember where the strong points are going to be. It's going to be Apollo in the side lane. Cannot be caught out. It's going to be the Ziggs power to hold and prevent the siege from coming through. A Polycaton is going to have to be very careful not to overextend.
Yeah, this is what you're talking about a while ago, Brandon. When it comes to the draft, Talon Esports is heavily relying on the late game, and now it's 16 minutes. Vayne will already be unkillable at this moment. They're slowly ramping up, or if I say quickly ramping up in this late game phase when Everest is on a difficult situation. It's on a difficult end on this game number 3 with a 4-man roam into the mid lane, well, 3-man roam into the mid lane to push in all lanes.
Oh my goodness. Just being cheeky there, looking for any damage that you can, and you just very quickly see why that does not work. Not against a Vayne who's already skilled up to this point.
Definitely. And on top of all that, she also has the lifesteal boots, so more sustainability towards Elizant. Now the inhib turret just has to fall down. I think Everest would not have enough time and enough damage to clear out the waves, so that's inhib turret down. And with the package already used up by Blue Bonnets, they're trying to catch up. Elizant now with the ultimate coming in from Lulu, a lot of sustainability, and they're going back in for the re-engage.
Elizant
Takes enchant for Corki. That's going to be a golden state for a bit, but not enough to survive. And now it's Galio, the next step for Everest. Apollo, the only one left standing to defend, and Talon Esports is there. This game might be over. And now with Jarvan 4 coming through. It's a 2-man versus a 4-man. They're locking through it with the Cataclysm, but it is all over. Apollo is there to defend.
Where's the minion wave? Minion wave needs to come in. They need to close this one out. They still have enough time.
They're going through. The Mash Injustice is there, just popping off the GA. That's already the ace. Talon Esports will win the series up against SG Everest.
And we said this was a series on the back of Elizant. The performance of this Vayne was going to be a result, a deciding factor in the win or loss in this series. And she steps up, performs with the help of her team. Talon Esports take the 2-1, taking down Space Gamer Everest. I mean, they played an amazing series. They played incredibly well even in this last game. But ultimately, the scaling came through. 10-1-5. I mean, that is just phenomenal Vayne gameplay.
Yeah,
I'm a Vayne connoisseur, Infi.
Sorry?
I'm a Vayne connoisseur. I know my Vayne gameplay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
You're a Vayne man. Vayne man. Now we've played a couple of times, and if I remember correctly, all of those times was a Vayne play from you.
Yeah,
So,
I played like Jinx
I
or something.
definitely agree.
Yeah, but I play a lot of Vayne. Vayne's a very fun champion. It is difficult to play and execute on a high level in a competitive setting, and so it is very impressive whenever we do see it manage to work, right? What we just saw here from Elizant, being able to reach to that point. You mentioned it, the only time she died was because she was going for that early kill. I think that was first blood as well in the bot side. And trading back, Tomato does come down, but we see how much of an impact that she's been able to have. And she better. Her whole team played for her. Andy, Nico, JJ, all played for her. Even Sweet Jade was playing to initiate and to peel for Elizant. And so, I mean, it's a team effort, and they get it done. So, a good showing from Talon Esports, displaying a grand total of 2 compositions. Amazing.
Yeah. 2 different. I mean, this is what you're looking for, right, Grandin? You were talking about in game 2. What else can Talon Esports play? In game 3, they bring out the Vayne. They bring out this Karma and Lulu to funnel in the Vayne. So just amazing stuff coming in from Talon Esports. Still commendable coming in from SG Everest, taking 1 game from that series. But just amazing stuff coming in from Elizant all throughout that series.
Good job to both teams. A very, very well played series there, I do believe. But I mean, it is ultimately going to be Talon Esports that get to move forward. I think it's going to be, let's be honest, as the opponents in the next part of the qualifiers, so on the next part of the competition. And so we'll look to see how that one plays out for them. We do have another match that we will be following. It's going to be Suda versus MDH Esports. Both tooled their opponents earlier on.
Yeah, and we'll see how that game would turn out after this short break. I'm Infinity, and this is Grandin for that series. We will be coming back.